John Rhys Davis here, Salah in Indiana Jones, and Gimli in Lord of the Rings. Give 'em hell, 3 guys and a flick.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
There are no 2 words in the English language more harmful than good job.
Three guys and a flick with Don, Ken, and John. Dive into the movies well after the dawn. From the good to the bad to the wildly absurd. They give a fuck about films. Their voices are heard.
Welcome back. You are listening to 3 Guys and a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, Whiplash. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from the Schaefer Conservatory in New York City.
New York City?
Get a rope. My name is Don. And to my right, we have the comic book guy, John.
Heidi-ho.
And to my left, we have the professor, Ken.
Hello, everybody.
How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. John, how you doing tonight?
I'm feeling a little scared after watching this movie. There was a lot of angry people.
Just one, really.
Well,
but he was pretty fucking angry.
Sort of 2.
Who?
Andrew.
I mean, yes, but not nearly like, what's his name?
Fletcher.
Fletcher, right.
Yeah, I was ready to call him Daddy.
Yeah, you were, you fucking submissive little bitch. And on that note, tonight we are talking about Whiplash. Whiplash comes to us via the Bronco helmet and was submitted by one of our listeners, Allison M. So, Allison, I hope you enjoy the review. This one's for you. Released on October 10th, 2014, Whiplash was directed by Damien Chazelle. Screenplay by Damien Chazelle. Based on Whiplash by Damien Chazelle. And it stars Miles Teller, J.K. Simmons, Paul Reiser, and a bunch of other band kids.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for a modest $3 million and brought in $49 million.
I read somewhere that regarding the budget of this film, and the box office, it was one of the lowest movies to ever be nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, $3 million, this is very much a dramatic take, and there's not a lot of flash or, anything that I would think that would cost more.
It's dialogue driven.
Yeah, and the locations are pretty simple, so to make this movie for $3 million, that's pretty good.
The year that it came out, it only made $5.9 million in the box office.
And then it got nominated and right?
Well, yeah, but that was the following year. And it's curious. Every once in a while, we get a movie that we review where, for whatever reason, it has a small box office release. And so this is an example of that. This had been in the theaters for a total of 12 weeks. And in week number 6, it was at its high point, 419 theaters. You look at any of the top 10 grossing movies, 3,000 theaters, 2,000 theaters, maybe even 1,000 theaters. But, during its high point, 400 theaters, that's it? Odd. The first week, it only had 6. And in the last week that it was out, it was in 81 theaters.
Yeah.
Paltry. Why studios choose to do this is curious. It's got to be money driven, but it wasn't backed up against any powerhouses by any stretch of the imagination. This is an October movie, and October movies, that's the opposite of your summer blockbuster, and it's certainly released earlier than Oscar considered movies.
Right.
So I don't know why some theaters, or why some productions have such a limited box office release.
Yeah, it all comes down to the numbers and the bean counters over in Hollywood. Somebody thought they didn't want to spend a whole lot on the marketing, and then in that didn't want to spend the money to get it in a bunch of theaters. And I mean, it ends up making $49 million. So, okay.
I had never heard of this movie before we got it as a suggestion. In fact, I went back and I looked at what other movies came out around that same year, even movies with Miles Teller in it. He was in Divergent, I think, that same year. So that's where I know him from. I never had heard of Whiplash.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw it way back when. Yeah.
I did not see it in the theater. It was something that came about with word of mouth, which is what makes this movie compelling, because this is all about word of mouth. This having its limited theatrical release. So even though it's in like 60 theaters one week, 80 theaters another week, it's in the top 25 pretty consistently in those first 6-7 weeks, which means that it had very strong word of mouth.
Yeah, absolutely it did.
Did you see this movie in the theater?
I did not. I caught this probably on HBO or something. I don't even think I rented it. Yeah, I there was a lot of hype when it came out, and the Oscar nominations and all of that, and it just got kind of really built up, and so I just kind of let it go by the wayside. And I remember watching it for the first time, going, it's all right.
Really?
Yeah.
Odd.
Why is that odd?
Because I had a completely opposite reaction to it the first time that I saw it.
What was your reaction when you saw it?
Do you remember at the end of The Incredibles when the little kid on the trike sees Mr. Incredible performing a feat at the end?
Uh-huh.
And he's like, that was awesome.
Uh-huh.
So I'm watching it in the basement with a bunch of other people, and the movie goes to black, and then, it's quiet for just a moment, and I yell, that was fucking awesome!
Odd.
No, it's not, because this is an incredibly good movie.
I can see it. I can see it as being very life-altering for the professor over there. I bet you that's why his teaching style with his kids are the way it is.
Yeah, I can totally see that as well.
I see those kids every time, tears streaming down their faces, running from the classroom.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
So speaking of Oscars, this did get nominated for 5 Oscars. And out of those 5 Oscars, it got 3 of them. It got it for supporting actor, film editing, and sound mixing. And it was nominated for picture and adapted screenplay, but it lost to, for picture, it lost to Birdman, and then for screenplay, it lost to Imitation Game.
The director, who was also the writer and all that, struggled to get the movie funded, so he ended up going with the idea of creating a short filmed version of it, showing it off at Sundance, having it do so well at Sundance, then he could get the investors to make the full-length movie.
Huh.
So it was a good idea.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people go that route.
Probably a lot.
You think so?
Yeah. Lights Out did that. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
A gem, people. Check out the Lights Out short.
before you check out the movie, and actually you can skip the movie. And really, the only other thing this guy directs is La La Land, The First Man, and then a couple of miniseries.
Oh, Babylon.
What the fuck is... Oh, Babylon with Brad Pitt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The only one of those I've seen was La La Land, and yeah, I mean, different podcast for a different time.
He's been a pretty successful director. I had never heard of him before, but I also have been kind of saving myself from seeing La La Land yet.
Wait, what?
I have not seen La La Land because I figured I will wait until it is submitted to the bucket, until it's submitted to the helmet, and I will watch it then.
You know it's a musical, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I know. Sometimes
I'm with you, Professor. I mean, yeah,
I'm
I hear
just
you.
slack-jawed.
it's just one of those things, you just kind of got to save that, savor it for later. But I did read that he's been pretty successful. He's been nominated. His movies have been nominated for 26 Academy Awards, of which he's won 10. So that's not too bad for a director.
Yeah, well, La La Land did pretty well at the Oscars.
Didn't it win like 7 or something like that?
I'm not sure, but it won a lot. But it didn't win Best Picture. Thanks, Warren Beatty.
So, Babylon, La La Land, and Whiplash are directed, but he also wrote these. The other movie of note that he wrote, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Did you see it?
Wait, is that the one where they're underground?
Yeah, it's with John Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen all of it, but
Yeah, I saw it.
yeah.
I remember liking that movie. I still like the original Cloverfield better.
Oh yeah. All right, let's talk about this cast. Let's start with Miles Teller. What'd you guys think of Andrew Neiman?
I've always struggled liking him. I don't know why. There's always just something that's bothered me. And maybe it's because the first time I was introduced to him was in the movie Divergent, where he plays a total dick throughout the whole movie. So every time I see him in a role, I see him as that same character. In this movie, he did, in my opinion, I thought he did okay. I don't think he really shined in this movie. Going from coming to that meek character up to, just being kind of almost the same like Fletcher. I felt Natalie Portman did it better in Black Swan.
Okay. All right. What about you there, Guy? What'd you think of him?
In Whiplash,
Yeah.
I thought he was great. I really think that he nailed that part. And I only know him from one other role, which is Maverick, Top Gun Maverick.
I like this kid. I think he's a good actor. I liked him in this, and I will probably be the only person on the planet to say I didn't mind him as Reed Richards either. So I thought the character he played did go through a transformation and push to the limits, this, that, and the other, and I bought it coming from him. But he easily, and everybody in this film, easily gets outshined by J.K. Simmons.
That's what I was exactly going to say is I feel like maybe my issues with him was because J.K. Simmons was just so amazing in this movie.
He has over 200 acting credits, according to IMDb. The guy's been in a ton of work. He's got, right now, according to IMDb, 11 upcoming projects that he's currently in process with.
I believe it.
Animation, games, all kinds of things. He's all over the place. He's just got that iconic voice that you can recognize from anything.
Yeah.
One of his upcoming projects that's in the completed stage is Batgirl, and he's playing Commissioner Gordon.
So he gets to, he played Commissioner Gordon in Justice League, so that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets to play Commissioner Gordon and J. Jonah Jameson.
And that's the only other place I know him is in the Spider-Man universe.
Really?
Have you ever seen Invincible, the animated series on Amazon?
No.
Oh, you should check it out. He does the voice for Omni-Man, and it's just amazing. I just love that character. He even does it when they brought Omni-Man to the game Mortal Kombat 1. He brings his voice along with it.
Sure.
One interesting thing about this movie is obviously the instruments, the drums, the band. That's another character in this movie. I was fascinated to find out that Miles Teller played the drums himself. Most of the scenes in this movie, that's him drumming, except for some ones that needed body doubles, things like that.
Oh, yeah. When they cut to the wide shot and it's him in frame, I don't know how you would fake that.
Yeah.
I mean, close-ups, sure, because you're not getting the face and the hands at the same time. But yeah, no, he totally looked like he was playing it.
Yeah, he had been learning to play the band all of his life, or play the drum all of his life. And then when it came time to do this movie, he took additional lessons to get himself back up to speed. But that's him playing. And on some of the scenes, the director would refuse to call cut, even when all the other actors stopped, because he wanted to see Miles play himself to exhaustion just to capture that in the movie.
Yeah, well, it worked. Mm-hmm. I bought it. I bought that he was suffering and loving it at the same time.
Yeah, he started playing drums when he was about 15, and he ended up getting the role. After he got the role, then he was taking 4-hour drumming lessons 3 days a week during the shoot and leading up to the shoot.
Yeah,
and so he plays like 99% of it. The only times that a double is used is for the overhead shots of some of the really fast work. On the soundtrack, at least 40% is him actually playing.
One interesting style I thought in this movie that I don't recall seeing in another movie we have reviewed, at least recently, is the fact that they put Andrew in every single scene of the movie.
He's in every frame?
Not
wait, let me rephrase that. He's never off screen?
No.
Really?
No, it's not that he's off screen. What he's saying is that the perspective that the audience is supposed to be is that we are with Andrew, and that's it.
All the time. So sometimes you don't see him, but he's in the scene. Like he'll appear somewhere in the scene.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Mm-hmm. Do you know where the inspiration for this movie came from?
Did the director-writer have just a fucking prick for a teacher?
Yeah, he basically said it was from witnessing when he was in band, a very aggressive and unruly kind of band teacher.
Oh, yeah.
His high school jazz conductor was very aggressive and abrasive.
Huh. That didn't come across on screen at all.
Is it about that time, Don?
Why, yes, boys. It is about that time. Welcome to another edition of Master Movie Trivia. I am your reigning champ. You may call me the champ. I have compiled 5 questions and 5 questions only to test your knowledge of the movie we are reviewing. Each question could be worth multiple points, so if you know the answer, say it. And please wait until I finish each question. Question number 1. In Andrew's first class, what is the name of the song that the band warms up to?
Chopsticks.
Wrong.
Whiplash.
Wrong. His
Caravan.
very first... Huh?
Caravan.
Wrong. The very first class.
Hot cross buns.
Hot cross buns? I like that. But no. The correct answer is Billy Zane.
Mm.
Billy Zane. Question number 2. What endearing nickname does Fletcher give the trombone player?
I thought it was some kind of gay reference. I can't remember what it was.
No. I mean, there were gay references, but that was not one of them. Anybody? The answer is Elmer Fudd.
Elmer Fudd.
Elmer Fudd. Question number 3. What does Andrew's dad do for a living?
He's a journalist. No, he's a teacher. He's a high school English teacher.
He's a high school English teacher. Very good. What is the name of the song that Fletcher surprises Andrew with at the end of the film?
Up swinging.
Up swinging.
I'll start with an A. I was way off.
Such a dick move too, right? Yeah, but we'll get there. And question number 5. What is the name of the jazz festival that Newman has a chance to play in at the end?
JVC.
JVC. Well done, boys. Well done. I believe the professor had a couple more.
Oh, he kicked my ass.
Okay, I didn't want to say that, but yeah. Congratulations to the professor. You are one step closer to movie immortality. Jazz drummer Andrew Neiman attends the prestigious Schaefer College in New York City, hoping one day to leave a legacy that of his childhood idol Buddy Rich. Terrence Fletcher, the conductor of the Schaefer Conservatory Studio Band, recruits him to play in the studio ensemble as an alternate for core drummer Carl Tanner. Andrew quickly discovers that Fletcher, although encouraging at first, is relentlessly strict and both verbally and physically abusive towards his students. When Andrew fails to keep tempo during the first ensemble rehearsal of Hank Levy's Whiplash, Fletcher throws a chair at him, slaps his face, and berates him. So what'd you guys think of the opening?
Fucking loved it. It was awesome. Did you like it?
It opens with him on the drums, right?
Yeah, it starts with a black screen, and we hear a snare drum, and the tempo goes faster, and then it snaps to a stop, and then we are framed, and we see him down a hallway. It's a dark hallway, and he's sitting in front of a drum set. It's at night, and so clearly that he is somebody who is dedicated and passionate about practicing, because here he is practicing by himself at night, and and then he starts playing again, and the camera slowly pulls us towards him.
Right.
As the tempo increases on the drums, and he just gets going faster and faster and faster. Love this intro.
The one thing I really appreciate about this is the movie starts with the first beat, with him beating on that drum. The movie ends with the final beat of him done with the drums. So it kind of opens and closes in the same way, and that's always pleasant to see in a movie.
Yeah, bookends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we meet Fletcher.
Sort of.
He walks in, and they have a dialogue.
He reminded me at this point of you, Don.
Oh, for
In
fuck's
that-
sakes. I knew you were going to say that.
In that, there is no right answer. It's like, well, you know who I am. Why'd you stop playing? So he starts playing again. He goes, I didn't tell you to start playing. You would have said the same damn thing.
Yeah. And I remember thinking while I was watching it, well, Andrew just blew his first impression. So
I think, honestly, at that point, he already had heard what he wanted to hear. He already knew that he wanted Andrew. He was already impressed by him. This is where he started the whole, what happens when I put a little pressure on him, when I kind of fuck with him a bit. Let's see if he cracks a little. So I think he was already fucking with him at that point.
Oh, I agree. I do too, because he eventually goes in and calls for him,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, he's setting I don't want to say it's setting a trap, but he's measuring who Andrew is, because, you know, he starts out polite enough. You know, Andrew abruptly stops, and then he's like, no, just stay. And then from there, do you know who I am? He doesn't even introduce himself, right? He carries a presumption that his arrogance, if you will, is that he is one of the masters of this school for him to say that.
Oh, he absolutely thinks that. He thinks his shit does not stink. And yeah, I kind of got a problem with that.
Yeah. And so, you know, as this goes, and then, you know, why did you start playing? And then why did you stop playing? You know, and he calls him like a wind up monkey.
Right.
And so, you know, he goes back to playing only to hear the door slam that makes him stop. And he's thinking, oh man, I blew it.
I love his little smile as the door opens again.
He's like, oh, maybe a second chance. But Fletcher's just like, sorry, I forgot my jacket.
Yeah, he comes in all peaches and cream. Oops, a daisy. Forgot my jacket.
Which is interesting, because didn't he just peek his face in the beginning? So when did he have time to hang up his jacket?
Oh, we see him take his jacket off.
Oh,
Yes,
do
we
we?
do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in the first 4 minutes, 15 seconds, this encapsulates pretty much the entire movie. This is all about the relationship and the power struggle, if you will. It's not necessarily a power struggle, but he is wanting to have a protege, not a protege necessarily, but he wants to have somebody that will fall in line to him and be subservient to him, so he can tear them down and put them back up in his image, in his likeness, in his vision, that is sadistic as it is. And we get that in the first 4 minutes, 15 seconds.
Yeah, sadistic. That is a great word when describing this teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Did you catch the correlation of Buddy Rich? Of like when one of the first times we see Andrew, I think on the bus, he's listening to Buddy Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Buddy Rich was a drummer who was known for his anger and his tantrums and just explosive nature, which kind of foreshadows what's to come in this movie, being that this is Andrew, who Andrew looks up to, Buddy Rich. The interesting side story of Buddy Rich is he never went to school, he never had any formal training, and claimed in interviews he never practiced. So he was a complete opposite of Andrew.
We do get a brief little montage of downtown city life. He's walking and he goes to the theater and he meets up with his dad. And so now we see that there is another character in Andrew's life that is going to be a subtle influence in his life during the time of this movie.
We also see that he's got a crush on the little popcorn girl at the front counter. And I thought we get an insight into his personality when you see him putting the raisinets into the popcorn, taking it into his dad, and he's eating the popcorn. His dad's like, why aren't you eating the raisinets? I don't like the raisinets. I just eat around them, which kind of tells us that, you know, Andrew's one of those guys who kind of tries to please people until later on when he starts to, you know, focus more on himself.
Sure.
And he says to his dad, he saw me play today. And he kind of sort of shrugs it off. He doesn't know how he did.
Right.
And so then the next day, it's the first day of school type of thing. Andrew is sitting in class and the teacher, all right, let's get started. And they start playing. And then he sees a silhouette at the door. Like, who is that? Us, the audience, are being told that it's most likely Fletcher.
Okay.
But we don't know that, which leads him to be curious enough to seek out Fletcher's class. And so he goes down and he finds Fletcher's class and he hears them playing.
And did Fletcher actually see him through the window? Because I didn't catch that part. I just saw him jump back and kind of run away.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Yes.
Okay.
So the camera pans, and we see the musicians playing, and the camera as we move from left to right, Fletcher comes into frame. And when Fletcher comes into frame, he is staring directly at Andrew, who's looking through the window.
Yeah. So we're in class, and they're starting to play, and Fletcher walks in.
Oh, he doesn't walk in. Fletcher does not walk in. Fletcher, he bursts in. He's impertinently bursting through the doors.
He takes over.
Well,
the
yeah,
other-
because
the
he's
other guy
that.
just backs off.
Yeah, well, because he's that guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
He walks right up to the teacher. He says, "May I?"
mhm.
It's like, I don't care what you're doing. I am in charge now. And the other teacher acquiesces and go ahead.
Of course he does.
And then he starts playing Andrew against that other guy to see who's the better drummer.
Well, so he doesn't start with them, though. He starts with other students.
Oh.
He starts, I don't know if it's a trumpet player and then a trombone player and then a saxophone player. It's something like that.
And a few seconds of each of
About
them.
3 seconds. And okay, that's enough. And then he gets his way over to the drummers.
I just loved at the end of the whole Fletcher messing with them that the one guy thought he had been picked. And then he turns and he goes, no,
Yeah.
Andrew,
No. Other drums. And then Andrew's like, what?
And so Fletcher tells him,
Room B16, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.
Now
Don't be late.
He says 6 a.m., but nobody shows up until 9 a.m. Was he just fucking with him?
oh, hang on, we'll get there. So after this, he goes on his date, doesn't he? Or is that after this?
I think he goes to ask her out.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yes,
that's right.
He goes to the theater to ask her out.
And she says yes. And
Not at first. She says, "Go away."
because she's fucking with him, right?
Yes, don't come back.
Yeah. And that's fucked up too, but kind of cute. And then we cut to.
Andrew, he wakes up at 6:03 a.m.
So to get back to your question, he wakes up at 6:03. He doesn't get there until like 6:15, right? One could say that Fletcher showed up at 6 a.m. and he wasn't there and he left, right? That's the kind of teacher he is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not here at 6 o'clock, like I told you, at 6:01, I'm gone. Or he never had any intention of showing up and knew, no one would be there until 9 o'clock. And I kind of lean toward that way because it's never mentioned that he was late.
Well, my thought too, and you bring up a good point, is it felt kind of like Fight Club when they made people stand on the porch and wanted to see how long they'll stand for. Maybe this was another one of Fletcher's little tests of, I'm going to tell him 6 a.m. and see if he's still there at 9.
I like that when everyone comes in, they wake him up because he's sleeping at the drums.
And, we're only 15 minutes into the movie now. And this is where the heart of the movie is going to lie. This relationship between Andrew and Fletcher. And did you notice? You must have noticed because it's explicitly pointed out to us that, and it was strange that the students came in. They started coming in like at 3 minutes before 9, maybe, because everybody showed up right at the same time. Why are you showing up so close? Because at exactly 9 a.m. to the second, Fletcher opens the door.
Yeah, because he is a punctual man.
I learned a few things too. I didn't know. I mean, I knew you could do things to drums. I didn't know you could tune them by like a note.
Yeah, with a drum key.
Yeah, because both my dad and I were surprised that he was tuning it by like, was it a B sharp or a B flat?
Yeah, it was something with a B.
And I thought that was interesting. I never realized that drums were that synchronized with the rest of the music.
Yeah.
So as Fletcher walks in, he takes his hat off, puts it on the coat rack, takes his jacket off, puts it on the coat rack, and then we get a shot of the band, and nobody is making eye contact with him. The entire band is looking down. Nobody will look at him.
Well, you can see there's fear in the room, and nobody wants to be his target.
Absolutely. The intimidation that he is giving off by the reaction that we have from the rest of the band is immediately prevalent.
Yeah, and there's fear and intimidation, and he doesn't necessarily go after the drums right away. He starts, telling these guys to play this and then these guys to play that. And what I did like about this character, which I thought was funny, is like every time he would stop him he would like shake his head and goes, well, maybe I heard that wrong, but somebody's out of tune in here. And this is the whole in tune bit.
Before we get to there, though, I like to watch. He's very quiet. Okay, let's start with Whiplash. And then everybody gets the music out, and then they have their instruments up at their mouth, and everybody is frozen, waiting for Fletcher to give the go. But everybody just sits there and waits, and it's like they're not even breathing. And we get this shot, of everybody waiting just like that. Andrew is in right center frame, and then we have Fletcher's hand in right frame, and it's out of focus. And then it shifts focus from the two drummers to Fletcher's hand. Now his hand is in focus, and it moves so subtly. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can just the slightest nuance, and then everybody, bam, they kick in with the music.
One of my thoughts at this point in the movie is looking at each person and how serious they are and how focused they are, is if each one has a similar story to Andrew, that at one time they were Andrew to Fletcher. Like, he went and picked them, he basically brought them in, he broke them, and now this is who they are.
Yeah, maybe.
And they don't even make it 30 seconds through the song before Fletcher stops them. And he's telling Parker not to come early. And then they start again, and they don't even get another 30 seconds. And then this is where it leads us to, there's somebody out of tune.
And I do like that whole idea of either you're fucking me and out of tune on purpose, or you don't know you're out of tune, and that's even worse.
Yeah. And he's ruling by fear.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, naturally, what are you going to do?
Yeah. He, and when he stops, there's somebody out of tune. Everybody immediately looks down. And then he's like, And then from there, and he's just so casual about it. Reeds, they play, oh, not them. Bones? Okay, there it is.
Right. And he finds it.
The thing that I just find fascinating about this scene is there are people out there who can hear like he does, that they can hear if something's off tempo. They can hear if something's, one instrument out of how many is out of tune. I mean, it's just crazy to think that someone's mind could work like that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't hear it. And I got to be honest, during all the drumming, it all kind of sounded the same to me, but I understand.
Wait, did you guys play an instrument in did you play anything in high school?
Not in high school. I played the trombone in grade school.
John, what about you?
French horn.
French horn. Elementary through high school, I did the trumpet, and then I wasn't a very good trumpet. Once high school was done, then that was it.
I was in a steel drum band, though.
Really?
Yeah. A little bit of calypso.
Of course you were. And so Fletcher finally finds out who's out of tune, and it wasn't the guy he told to get out, but he told him to get out because, well, he didn't know if he was out of tune or not, and that's even worse to Fletcher because you should know.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're out in the hallway taking a break, and Andrew is approached by Fletcher, and they have a little bit of casual small talk.
It seemed like a very heart-to-heart kind of talk. He was very actually friendly at this point.
Well, yeah, he's all smiles and giggles until fucking Andrew doesn't do what he wants.
Yeah, and, it could be said that he's trying to get ammo, if you will.
I thought that exact same thing, too. He was just getting shit to use against him.
He did.
He did, but
he absolutely did.
But there's more to it than that.
Is there?
Yes, there is.
Why?
Because you are having somebody that is a manipulator and a controller, and in order to have a manipulator and a controller, you want to have somebody that is willing to follow you. And so Andrew didn't have to choose to reveal things about his family. And when Andrew does do that, and Fletcher is walking away, Andrew follows. And then when they stop and Fletcher puts his hand onto the wall, as he's doing this, he is subtly sizing up that Andrew is going to be somebody that will be doggedly following him regardless of how he is treated. This is the moment where Fletcher is starting to realize that Andrew is going to be somebody that is going to follow him through hell, potentially.
And he preys on that.
Yes.
And
yes, he does.
I don't like this guy. So,
well, that's the whole thing I think about this movie is I felt like this is one of those movies that immediately unsettles you, starts to get you a little bit angry, starts to get you hate, this one character. And throughout the whole movie, I felt irritated, at Fletcher the whole entire movie, to the point of I just didn't even want to watch the guy anymore because he was just so mean and so irritating.
I can only laugh at so much berating before it becomes too much, and so, yeah.
You're just hoping, you're watching the rest of this movie, hoping someone punches him.
Something like that.
So during this conversation in the hallway, then we get the Charlie Parker story. And the Charlie Parker symbol story is telling us, if you really want to get better, then, you got to be an asshole. That's kind of sort of, what Fletcher is indirectly telling him here. And to me, this is a direct tie back to what Tyler Durden does in Fight Club with the driver's licenses. For him to be such an asshole in the hopes of making somebody better, he feels justified by doing that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that this is what Fletcher is like as well, that his means will justify the ends if he is able to create something great.
Yeah.
Sure.
We find out later on in this movie that for Fletcher, he will never be a great musician. He will never be remembered for being great on a particular instrument. His life goal is to paint a painting that everybody will remember. He wants to create a drummer, a trumpist, somebody a trumpeter or something like that, who will be the next great, and he will be able to attach his name to. So to him, that's his artistry, that's his thing, and he feels like the only way he's ever going to create this next amazing drummer is to, as he puts it, you can't say good job, you have to basically torture him.
So we go back into the classroom, and then we get the rushing and dragging bit.
This was,
And I had to laugh because, he was so adamant about it, right? You're either rushing or you're dragging.
which is it?
Right. And he keeps going and going and
throws a chair at him.
Do you know the secret of that scene?
There's a secret to that scene?
Yep. The director has talked about it, and apparently, I'm not creative musically enough to see it or hear it. He had perfect tempo. He was right on perfectly. Fletcher was just fucking with him to try to break him. He was neither ahead or behind. He had perfect tempo.
At some point, I kind of started thinking that too, because it seemed like there was no pleasing this guy. He really doesn't really please him until the very, very end of the film, if you think about it. So for him to keep going, which is it? You're wrong. You're this, that, and the other. It totally makes sense. It was a complete mind fuck that this guy's doing, trying to bend this kid to his will, and it's fucking working. So much so that Andrew lets him slap him, and he gets physical, and he gets upset, and then Fletcher starts making fun of him for being upset. The guy's just a fucking prick.
The director said it was supposed to be a hint to us. I don't know how anybody in the audience would know that he had perfect tempo, but it was supposed to be a hint to us exactly what Fletcher's motives were, in that he was going to keep tearing him down to try to make him a great musician.
Oh, I got that from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much maybe Andrew, but that was Fletcher's MO with his students.
Mm-hmm.
Tear him down to show how great you are. There's other ways of doing that there, Fletcher.
Simmons did say that was his favorite scene to film.
To smack Miles Teller around?
Just to keep smacking him around.
Oh, yeah. You know how many times I've wanted to... You know what? I'm not going to say that because it could be used against me. Determined to impress Fletcher, Andrew excessively practices, oftentimes until his hands blister and bleed. After their first set at a jazz competition, Andrew misplaces Tanner's sheet music. Tanner cannot play without the sheets, so Andrew replaces him to successfully perform Whiplash from memory. Fletcher promotes him to corps drummer. However, Andrew is taken aback when Fletcher abruptly reassigns the position to Ryan Connolly, a drummer from a lower-level ensemble within Schaefer. Because of his single-mindedness towards music, Andrew clashes with his family. He breaks up with his girlfriend, Nicole, to focus on his ambitions. One day, Fletcher begins rehearsal by mournfully announcing that Sean Casey, a promising former member of the studio band, died in a car accident. Fletcher then pushes the 3 drummers to play at a faster tempo on Caravan, keeping the band for a grueling 5-hour practice before Andrew earns back the core position.
So we get our first little montage of Andrew practicing, and we get to see his hands are bloodied and blistered, and he has taken to heart what Fletcher has already done to him, that, you know, I got to practice harder. I got to push myself harder.
He puts in the hours, and he's physically destroying his hands. I mean...
And then we have a date. He goes out on a date with Nicole, and they kind of sort of start to get to know each other.
It was a little bit of an awkward date, but I guess that's kind of, you know, the way Andrew was at that point.
Yeah, well, a little bit for both of them, because she just said she moved in from Arizona and she didn't really have any friends, and
She hated school.
and then they kind of bonded over stuff like that, and they had pizza that she didn't like, and, you know, so it was just like one of those dates.
It ended with a shot of their 2 shoes touching.
Yes, which was sweet.
Then we go to the competition.
The Overbrook Jazz Competition. We have the band just with a little bit of free time, and Andrew spies Fletcher out in the hallway, and we see him being sweet as can be to this little girl of one of, you know, somebody that he knows.
Sure.
And he was just being so sweet and gave her a little high five, and we see that he has a real tenderness to this little girl.
I kind of saw something a little bit different in that scene, and in that Fletcher was being very tender and was talking to the little girl, and he even said, "Will you come play, I think, piano for me someday in my band?" And I kind of got a vibe from Andrew thinking, run away. Don't join his band, because he will do to you what he does to everybody else. This little innocent girl will someday get just the shit chewed out of her by Fletcher.
Oh, you guys are so cute. Fletcher didn't give a fuck about that little girl. He was just being nice.
You think so?
Fuck yeah, I think so. That dude thinks of one thing and one thing only. His tempo.
And right after that's done, he walks into the room. Listen up, cocksuckers. Hurry the fuck up. Get your music. Okay, there's the Fletcher that we know and don't love.
And nobody there is going to fuck his reputation.
No. God, no. He reminds me a lot of the John Voight character from Varsity Blues. And listeners, Varsity Blues, Bronco helmet. And so now we're at the competition, and they get through the first song, and then there's a break, and
the core drummer says to Andrew, "Hold on to this. I'm going to the bathroom." But we did hear beforehand, you know, "So help me God, I will not find one of these sitting around."
Right. That was kind of a precursor to it.
Yep.
Because he did. He found what it was like. It was brass or something. It wasn't the drums book, but it was a different instrument.
Yeah, it said bass on it.
Bass, yes. And I swear to God, if I find one of these, I will fucking end you, he says. And so
he walks to the soda machine, and directly across from the soda machine is a set of chairs, like 4 chairs. He puts it down, puts his money in. 30 seconds have elapsed. He takes one sip, and the drummer comes back. He goes, "Where's my folder?" It's right there. Where did it was right there. It, you know, money into the machine, pops it open, takes one sip, and then the core drummer is back. It's what the hell? It had to be Fletcher.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind it was Fletcher.
My thought it was either Fletcher fucking with him again to see what Andrew could do, or it is a competition. They are competing against other bands. Someone may have come by and grabbed it, figuring they could fuck over the band.
Sure, you could think that all you want, but it was fucking Fletcher.
You think so?
Oh, I fucking know so.
So Tanner and Neiman, they got to tell Fletcher, "I don't have the folder." "Well, you got to play without it." "I can't. I can't."
He took it a lot better than I thought he was going to.
My favorite reply is when Tanner goes, "I gave Andrew the folder," and his first response was, "Why the fuck would you give away your folder, dipshit? That is your folder. You were responsible for it. This is on you. You have to play it without sheet music." And Tanner's like, "I can't. You know, come on, dude. We've talked about this. I have to have the visual whatever.
But here's my thought is Fletcher keeps going off repeatedly, and he does this a couple times in the movie, where he says, don't fuck with my reputation, that, this is, I want perfection, all of that. And here he knows this guy's fucked. And he's like, just play it without sheet music. You think that would be the last thing he'd want that guy to do? He'd be digging through and finding some other way for him to have that music.
No way.
No,
No
not this
way.
guy.
He wasn't going to fuck over and lose the competition because of this one guy.
He wants to make people grow. He wants to stretch people beyond their abilities.
Yeah.
Mm.
In a weird, sadistic kind of way.
Yeah.
And so
Neiman says, I can play it.
I can play it by memory. And you just knew Tanner was like, fuck you, dude. You totally stole my fucking book. You're totally fucking me over for this spot.
So they go out and they play. And then the next thing we hear, and in first place, Schaefer Conservatory.
And Fletcher's reputation is still intact.
I have to admit, it was kind of around this point that I started to have some Black Swan vibes. And I thought maybe Andrew is going to get pushed so far that maybe he's going to start to have a little bit of split personality. And I thought maybe his little Tyler Durden, his little alternate character, stole the book to purposely fuck over Fletcher.
So the next day, he comes into class and people are immediately, giving him the cold shoulder. Don't touch my folder.
Don't touch my shit.
Do not touch this set.
Yeah.
We have Fletcher come in. Tanner, what are you doing?
Oh, because he's sitting at the kit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and he tells him, get the fuck out of the chair. You're no longer the core drummer.
And then just to turn the screws a little bit more, the last thing he says to Tanner is, don't forget to turn Neiman's pages.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what you get for losing your fucking book. You get demoted, you get kicked out. You already knew this dude was a prick. So it didn't matter what you said.
So now we have Andrew, and he's visiting his dad. And then we have this little dinner party thing with the family.
I thought Andrew's comebacks were pretty priceless.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because here's this dad who's dad and mom bragging about their kids, how great they are. And what was one of them? Oh, he comments about them playing AAA football. It's not even double A or single A. And then one of the kids says something to him.
You think Carlton football is a joke? Come play with us. 4 words you will never hear from the NFL.
That's exactly where I was going. Yeah. So obviously he's a bit upset. He feels like nobody takes him seriously. They don't take the music thing or art, if you will, as serious as it is.
Well,
and they're more sports.
I get it that they don't understand him. They don't understand what level he's trying to achieve. When he says Buddy Rich, they think, oh, that's just another drummer. They don't understand that he's supposed to be a legend in drumming.
Right. They're not giving the arts the credit it deserves.
Because where he's at in this prestigious school, it's like he's one step from the NFL, and here they are going gaga over a guy in AAA football.
They are their sons too.
Yeah.
So, naturally gaga.
So the next day, rehearsal wraps up. And after rehearsal wraps up, Fletcher, he calls Andrew over for just a second. And he's, hey, I'm going to let Connolly have a shot at the seat. And it turns out that Connolly got the sheet music that morning. And Andrew is picking up the sheet music right now.
It was a little bit before this, or maybe right around here, that it really clicked with me that obviously Fletcher was now focusing on Andrew and saw something in Andrew and wanted to push Andrew farther. So I knew right away when he brought Connolly in, that was just to fuck with Andrew. I didn't ever think that he saw something in Connolly.
That's how I took it as well. And so Fletcher, he listens to Andrew for like 3 seconds. Not quite my tempo. And so let's go with Connolly now. And Connolly's like, hey, do you mind? Because, he didn't bring sticks.
So he has to give him his sticks, yeah.
And Fletcher gives off the slightest facial micro expression of a smirk at that moment. You can just barely see it.
I knew from jump Connolly was brought in just to fuck with him.
And that does say another thing about Fletcher. Fletcher treats people like crap, but he also is willing just to use people. This Connolly probably thought he had a chance. at this big band, and that he was a really good drummer and someone that Fletcher was, eyeing and all that. And really, he was just using him to fuck with Andrew.
Yeah, and so Connolly, he plays for 5 seconds, and just like that, he loses the core seat. And now we go to this handheld camera. Fletcher has now toppled Andrew's confidence again. And he gets a phone call at the same time, and Fletcher's clearly distraught. And he goes into his office, and, he demands to get the seat back. And Fletcher just leaves it with, "You need to earn it."
Yeah, well, first he says, now's not the fucking time, guy. And you got to give it to Andrew a little bit. He's really the only one that we've seen talk back to Fletcher this entire time. Maybe because all of the other ones are so subservient that they just don't care anymore, or they're just more focused on their careers and what's going on. But yeah, this is one of the bits where we get Andrew standing up for himself.
Did you notice, though, when he starts showing some backbone and starts standing up to Fletcher, he actually makes more progress with Fletcher each time?
Oh, yeah, because he's growing.
Mm-hmm.
He's growing.
And there's supposed to be a 9 p.m. rehearsal on this same day as well. So after this, now we cut to Andrew, and he's saying to Nicole that this is why he doesn't think that we should be together speech.
Right. He breaks up because he's going to focus all of his time on being the best drummer out there.
Did you think it was a good reason to break up, or did it sound like he was just being a kind of a overconfident, egotistical dick?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I didn't give a fuck. So it plays very much into his character. And even she's like, so what I hear you saying is if you stay with me, you're not going to succeed. And that's fucked up.
Yeah, so he does a total truth bomb on her. But I like how she gives a total truth bomb right back at him. She cuts through all the crap and she sums it up exactly as it is.
Well, she even also says to him along the lines of, "You're not even giving me a chance. You're just saying how I'm going to be and what I'm going to do and how I'm going to be a detriment to your future success when I haven't even done any of that yet."
Yeah, she ends it perfectly by saying, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Yeah. I'll tell you what's wrong with him. Fucking Fletcher. That's what's fucking wrong with him.
Mm-hmm.
Skewing his outlook on the world.
There was an interview with the director who talked about Andrew's choices in life. When he chooses the drums, he is giving up his humanity. He has no humanity, no care for the outside world, no care for his family, no care for anything. It's just the drums. And later on in the movie, when he gives up the drums, you start to see his humanity return. So the big question then comes at the end of the movie when it's left up a little bit, which way did he go? Did he choose humanity or did he choose the drums?
Yeah, and another way that you can also look at this is you can look at these main characters of Andrew's life, his dad and Fletcher and Nicole. His dad more or less leads a normal life. Nicole, more or less, she leads a normal life. And they are pulling towards Andrew to say, have a normal life. And he's saying, I don't want to do that. I want to stay with what I'm doing. And Fletcher also is telling him, you're not good enough. You can't do this. And so he is pulling for himself, despite other forces, other characters in this story telling him that you shouldn't necessarily do this.
Right. And so we go to this practice, and this is where we find out that Fletcher's all upset because one of his former students, Sean Casey, was killed in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's clearly upset, and he clearly had a thing for this kid, kind of like his Andrew before Andrew.
That's exactly what I thought. This was future Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get to see him showing emotion for just a few moments.
And then they get into...
Well, let me ask you this question, though, before you move on. At any point, did you really buy that the kid died in a car accident?
We didn't have any reason to believe otherwise.
I didn't buy it for a sec. The way he kind of looked when he said the word car accident, I was convinced right from the start this kid killed himself under the pressure.
Yeah, I thought that too. And then they say car accident, and I went, that's convenient. But that's about as far as I got.
Yeah. I figured this was, again, looking at foreshadowing, this was if Andrew keeps traveling down the road he's going and keeps continuing on with Fletcher, he's going to end up just like this kid.
Yeah, he almost does.
So rehearsal resumes. They get 3 seconds in, and then Fletcher cuts it off. That's not quite right, Conley. I'd like to try Neiman on this. And then we get this another micro facial expression from Neiman of a smirk. And then we have Fletcher come back with, maybe now is the time for Neiman to earn the part.
2 seconds later?
Nope, guess not.
Yep. And so now this is the bit where we start transitioning between all three drummers.
Yeah, and so, but I like, in Tanner? And then how does he respond with Tanner? Motherfucker!
Yeah. He, this bit went on a bit long. And so...
And you notice all the blood keeps gathering on the drum, and this teacher, Fletcher, isn't even reacting to the blood.
Well, why would he?
Mm.
And so now it shows the clock. It's 11:17. Over 2 hours have passed, and it's this brutal, demoralizing, just complete, beat down of all three of these drummers not being good enough for him.
And then finally...
Andrew, he's allowed to keep playing, and Jesus, Fletcher, he's losing his shit. He grabs the cowbell, he's banging it, and he throws it, and then he just keeps yelling, "Keep playing!"
Well, you can always use more cowbell.
Absolutely. I have a fever, and the prescription is more cowbell. And
And
so finally he gets it right.
Neiman, you earned the part. And then just so sweetly, alternates, you want to clean the blood off my set? He opens up the door. Okay, we can start now. And it's a 1:58 a.m. And he's just so pleasant about it. Okay, we can start now.
Yeah, well, he got what he wanted. On the way to the next competition, Andrew's bus gets a flat tire. He rents a car but arrives late and forgets his sticks at the rental office. After Fletcher reluctantly agrees to wait, Andrew races back and retrieves them, but his car is hit by a truck on the way back. Heavily injured, he crawls from the wreckage and runs to the theater, arriving bloodied and weak just as the ensemble enters the stage. He struggles to play, and Fletcher halts the performance to dismiss him from the band. Enraged, Andrew attacks Fletcher on stage, but is pulled away by security and expelled from Schaefer. At his father's request, Andrew meets a lawyer representing the parents of the late Sean Casey, who was not in a car accident, but in reality hanged himself after suffering depression and anxiety allegedly inflicted by Fletcher's abuse. Casey's parents want Fletcher held accountable, and Andrew reluctantly agrees to testify anonymously, leading Schaefer to terminate Fletcher.
After that marathon rehearsal ends, I like the camera work that we get as he comes outside. It's another handheld camera, and it's swaying back and forth, and the fluorescent lighting showing up on his face, he's green. And so, he looks clearly that he is not well at all, physically and emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because he's not, man. I mean, fuck, he had to practice more than anybody during that rehearsal, and it was all because Fletcher wanted to push him to be the best he could be. When who's to say that he wasn't doing it right the very first time?
So we get day one of the Dunedin competition, and we see Andrew, he's riding on a bus.
And naturally, the fucking bus gets a flat.
What the hell?
I mean, come on.
Come on.
That guy can't catch a break. He was all about fucking, you had to get there on time. They told you leave early. And he sees that the bus has a flat tire and he's like, fuck, what am I going to do now?
There was supposed to be a cab waiting when the bus pulled into the terminal. Oh, no, that doesn't work like that.
You got to call a cab and it takes forever.
So he goes to a car rental place and shit, he leaves his sticks behind.
You saw that too, right?
Yep.
When he takes the bag and they're just sitting there. My first thought in this whole bit was, A, he's not old enough to rent a fucking car.
I would just say that you have to be 25 to rent a car.
That's right. And I mean, I get being in a rush and being all fucking freaked out about that, but there's your fucking sticks, man.
He's obsessed with drumming. That is his whole thing. And he's obsessed with, basically cleaning Fletcher's taint. I mean, he is obsessed with pleasing that man. There's no way he would basically even put down those drumsticks.
Right. So he goes to the competition, and Fletcher's like, "You're fucking killing me, guy."
Connolly's playing.
I've already given your part away.
Yeah. You don't even have, if you're a fucking drummer, wear your sticks. And that's when he's like, fuck.
And he comes right back with, like, fucking hell, he's playing my part.
Yeah.
What did you just say to me?
That was a good bit because he's being tested.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, Fletcher's going to get the best.
And that was quite the argument they had.
Well, this is where I was kind of surprised by the outcome of the argument was, he's going back and forth with him. And he's like, fuck no, you're not having the part. And at the very end, he goes, okay, it's your part.
This bit where he has to go back and get the drumsticks, I like how before he left to get to the competition in the first time, it told us on the GPS that it was like 6 or 9 minutes away. And now he's got 15 minutes.
Something like that. And every time they cut and he's at a different location, they show the clock. And I thought that was pretty good. And on his way back, talk about Euro fuck moments. When he's on the phone and you see the car coming, but he doesn't see it. It was a truck.
You kind of brace for the impact as well. But he fucking gets smashed. And then I thought to myself, that's why they don't let anyone under 25 rent a car. And so after the accident, he climbs out from under the car and God damn it, he's got to get to the fucking...
Well, you hear the truck driver kind of vaguely saying behind him, you have to settle down, you have to sit down, you have to lay down, you're hurt, you okay, and all that stuff. And he's like, I got to get to the thing.
Yeah. Well, he ignores him and he runs in and he gets there.
The last possible second, the band is being introduced as he kicks Connolly out of the seat.
And I'm surprised not more people were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because you're right, he was covered in blood and just got in the accident. And he looks down at his hands, he's shaking, and he begins. And of course, he does not perform.
He's trying to play through the pain.
Well, I assumed right away he had a concussion. And so he was, probably on the verge of either passing out or, nausea or something. He was going to lose it. He was not going to make it through the entire performance.
Yeah, no way. And this all stems from the fear he has of not performing for Fletcher.
He ends up dropping a stick, and Fletcher comes over. What the fuck?
Well, he had said to him before he went to get his sticks, don't you fuck me in this.
I mean, I guess he kind of did, because Fletcher stops the performance.
You're done.
And Neiman gets up and fucking tackles him.
He apparently, in real life, broke a couple of Simmons's cracked his ribs.
Two
ribs.
On the tackle.
Yeah, well, that was a sweet tackle. And naturally, security comes and gets him, blah, blah, blah. And he gets expelled.
Yeah, so the next scene that we have, it's kind of sort of a back and forth. It's Dad and the lawyer, and it's brought to the audiences. It's revealed to the audience that Sean Casey hangs himself, and he was suffering from anxiety and depression. And so the family's poor, and they don't want to file a lawsuit, but they don't want to see Fletcher continuing to teach. And so we have Dad and the lawyer once again tugging at Neiman you need to make this stop. Fletcher needs to stop doing this.
Did you get the impression that he was just staring off into space and kind of in his own world, and you kind of hear the people talking around him and saying things of what he needs to do, but he, now that he's lost drumming, he just doesn't even give a crap about anything. He just, whatever you guys want to do, I'll do it.
Yeah,
he says, just tell me what to say.
Yeah, and so we cut back and forth to his dorm room, and it's revealed in a letter that he has been dismissed from the university, and we see him starting to pack stuff up, throw stuff away, and then just tell me what to say.
Right. Andrew abandons drumming, but months later encounters Fletcher playing piano at a jazz club. Over a drink, Fletcher admits his teaching methods were harsh, but insists they were necessary to motivate his students to become successful, citing an incident where Joe Jones threw a cymbal at Charlie Parker as an example. Fletcher says that the worst words that could be said to a student are "good job." He invites Andrew to perform with his band at the JVC Jazz Festival, playing the same songs from Studio Band. Andrew hesitantly accepts. Andrew calls Nicole to invite her to a performance, but learns she is in a new relationship.
So it's revealed to us that now it is summertime. We get a little 2-second shot, and we can see that Andrew is working in a sandwich shop.
Mm-hmm. And you notice throughout any of these segments, he doesn't practice on the drums once. So he's out of the school. He has left the drums behind.
Yeah, he had to take a break. He was getting a little bit too involved.
We see dad and son sitting watching TV over a bowl of popcorn.
And life just kind of goes on, and Andrew is just kind of recovering from this traumatic experience that he just went through.
And like I was saying earlier, he's also recovering his humanity. He's becoming human again.
So out during a walk, he happens to spot a club that has a special guest playing, Terrence Fletcher.
And when he walks in, he sees Fletcher playing the piano, and I thought this was the first time that I saw really Fletcher as a human being, because music is powerful. And you can see that he gets lost in the way that he's playing the keys, and he just loves it. J.K. Simmons did a good job of portraying his actual love for music, especially in this scene. I mean, I'm sure Fletcher could probably play any instrument, but I think deep down inside he's more of a piano guy because of the way he played it.
Well, I'm not a huge jazz person. I don't know enough about jazz to really appreciate it. But from what I do know about it is that if you ever watch the musicians, they get lost in the music and they love that style of music. Well, when, Fletcher comes down and actually talks to Andrew, he talks about that's why jazz is dying. That's why jazz is going away, is people don't have the love and, the strength to do what needs to be done to become great jazz musicians.
Yeah. During this scene, I had two questions. One, how does Andrew get into the bar?
Because he's 19 years old?
Yep.
Maybe it's an 18-year-old? I'm just saying.
I talked it up to, it's a college town, they don't card.
And that's probably good too. Plus, he got to rent a car. So, And two.
Maybe he has a really good fake ID.
Oh, maybe. And two, why the fuck do you sit down and have a drink with this guy? Closure?
Morbid curiosity?
No.
Maybe.
It's anybody who's ever had an abusive relationship. There are people who will go back. There are people who, think, well, I should just give them one more chance. Or maybe it wasn't all their fault. Or maybe he's feeling sorry. Yes, he did all this damage to me, but I did cost him his job. So now I feel a little guilty. It's all these different things. It's exactly why people go back to their abusive spouses.
Yeah, well, I just feel bad for them.
Yeah.
So this whole dialogue bit, what did you guys think of that?
I thought, like you were just saying a second ago about him playing his piano, this was our chance to start to see him as human, as a guy who makes mistakes, in that he's trying to explain why he's a dick, but that he actually, he believes in his students and he loves his students and he sees so much promise in students, and that he can't coddle them, because if he coddles them, that's all they'll ever be, is at that level. He's got to push them farther because he wants to create this, legend. He wants to create this perfect piece of art. So you're kind of starting to see the human side of him. And I have to admit, I started to buy into it a little bit.
Of course you did. That's why he won Best Supporting Actor. I think this is the bit where he is human. Mm-hmm. And he does come down a little bit, and I am a dick and I do it for this. He's justifying the reasons why he is the way he is.
I even felt like he was showing he really cared about Andrew still.
No, I don't think he cared about Andrew at all. Well, I think he cared about his talent and what he could get from that.
That's all it was.
Yeah. And I think this is one of those classic examples of this guy who is a dick, self-aware, knows he's a dick, but how can I get this kid to come play drums for me?
Yeah.
He just randomly showed up. obviously the universe was speaking, so I'm going to be nice to him.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the conversation, they walk out and
Did you feel like they were almost making a peace here?
a little bit.
Because that's where I thought they were going, is that now these two were going to work together.
Well, yeah, because Fletcher says, hey, I got this concert coming up at the JVC. We're going to do all the stuff we did in studio band. My drummer's not any good. Take the weekend. Think about it. I just threw a lot at you. We've been through a lot. There's a lot of trust issues there. So think about it.
So the next day we see Andrew haul out his drum kit from the closet, sets it up, and he decides to call Nicole.
And I mean, can you blame her?
No, not at all.
No. So
it's a kick to the junk, because he's inviting her to come see him and blah, blah, blah. First of all, it takes a huge amount of cojones to say, I'm dumping you for the drums. I'm choosing the drums over you. Now do you want to come see me play the drums?
yeah, absolutely.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah. And, whether or not there was a boyfriend or not, she did the right thing.
Yeah.
So, but I don't doubt that there was. I'm sure she did have a boyfriend. I mean,
Mhm.
she grows up to be Supergirl, for God's sake.
Yeah. Just right after this movie.
Was it?
Yep.
Yeah. At JVC, Fletcher confronts Andrew and reveals he knows Andrew testified against him. As revenge, Fletcher leads the band into a song Andrew does not know and was not provided sheet music for. After a disastrous performance, Andrew walks off stage humiliated. His father embraces him backstage, but Andrew returns to the stage, reclaims the drum kit, and cuts off Fletcher's introduction to the next piece by cueing the band into Caravan. Initially angered, Fletcher resumes conducting. As the piece finishes, Andrew continues into an unexpected extended solo. Impressed, Fletcher nods in approval before cueing the finale. Roll credits.
The thing I thought was really interesting going into this JVC thing is that Fletcher made a point to he was giving that speech to the group before they were about to go out, which is the people out in this audience are people who can move you up to new heights. They can put you into new positions, new bands where you'll make a mark for yourself. Or on the other side of it, if you fuck up, they don't forget.
Right.
And so he makes a point to throw that out. And it didn't click with me until we got to that next scene.
Yeah, I chalked it up to him being the pep talk
Mhm.
before they go out there. And what I didn't see coming was him fucking him like this,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which, fuck you, dude.
I mean, he was willing to say, fuck this competition, fuck everybody in my group who has practiced all this time to try to win this competition, screw my reputation and all that, just to fuck over Andrew.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think he could play it off because he's that big of a persona.
But was he going to continue on the performance of whatever they were doing?
He probably
with
had
no drummer.
He probably had another drummer in
You
line.
think he was going to bring the second one out?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, I enjoyed how the camera, we follow him up onto the stage. He sits down, and you can see that he's nervous. His hands are shaking a little bit.
But he has a little smile.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, I think he's feeling good about being back on the stage to perform for people. And then here comes Fletcher. And goddamn him. You think I'm fucking stupid? What? I know it was you.
Very Godfather 2, right? When Al Pacino comes up and kisses Fredo and says, I know it was you. You broke my heart. So Andrew's tripping.
He's looking around seeing everybody else has different music.
And then
Well, not yet.
Oh.
It's not until he fucking announces it.
yeah, Fletcher goes up to the microphone, introduces himself and the band, and then he says, "We got a brand new tune. We have a brand new tune, and it just came out, and it's called Upswingin'." And that's the proverbial needle across the record.
Right. The record scratch.
Yep.
And that's when everybody starts pulling out their sheet music, and Andrew's like, what the fuck?
He is forced to play it cold,
Yes. And hey, God bless him. He tries.
and he has to play by feel and improvisation.
And it's not working very well. And even the band members are like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
I know, they keep saying that. And then when they're all said and done, you could even hear the crowd just kind of slowly, lightly clap.
Yeah, it took him a minute to clap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bassist is like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And then you see the trombone player look over at him, and then you get the bassist, looking at him again. Come on, man. And then now the other band members, they're all staring at him now.
Yeah.
And then when it's finally over with, the audience, they applaud very weakly.
Yes. And
Fletcher, yeah, I guess maybe you don't have it.
And
That's the coldest thing to say to him.
well, it was revenge,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you got me fucking fired, guy. Here now, I just humiliated you in front of all these people that can make shit happen for you. So,
And they
Well
will
done.
remember.
yeah, and they will remember.
He gets up and he leaves, and there's Dad right there to greet him with a big hug.
Which I thought was very tender.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Andrew needed right then, to say to himself, you know what? Fuck that guy. I'm not going to let him win.
Did you expect Andrew to turn around? Because I didn't expect him to turn around and come back to the stage.
Yeah, that was not the finale.
I thought maybe he'd come out. If he did come back out, he would just call Fletcher out, or he would say something, or he would do so. I didn't expect him to get right back on the drums and just start playing.
Yeah. Something big had to happen. They weren't going to leave
Yeah.
his story like
Yeah,
this.
because right after he hugs his dad, and we get a shot of Fletcher, and we can see that Fletcher is very satisfied in the revenge that he has just exacted on Neiman.
Right.
Yeah, but you notice the dad was ready to lead him out the
He
door.
tried to.
Yeah,
What
when
are you doing? You don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And
And Andrew's like, no, Pop, I do.
so
I do
he-
have to do this.
He goes back and he sits down. Curiously enough, though, the seat was empty. There was no drummer there.
Well, maybe they hadn't got there yet.
Maybe.
So, and as Fletcher's about to introduce the next tune,
He says it's going to be a slow one, but he's cut off by Neiman.
and he starts the fucking drums. And I like this bit because it shows that Neiman isn't going to take this line down. He's going to do whatever he can to try to redeem himself. But for me, this bit was about 5 minutes too long. Just over and over and over and over again. There are bits in this that I do like. As soon as he starts drumming, Fletcher comes over and goes, Andrew, what are you doing, man? Like, what he just did to him never happened. He was just talking to him like, what the fuck? He wasn't upset. He was just he was like, what the fuck? And my favorite bit in this is when he looks at the bass player and he says, I'll cue you.
That's what I was about to say. Is I almost felt like this was a reversal of power. All of a sudden, not only he had basically just been fucked over by Fletcher, he now comes out and he takes the band away from Fletcher. He now controls the band. He now has the power. He basically tells him, I'll cue you in. We're doing Caravan, and just follow me. And all of them start looking at him and not Fletcher. And I'm wondering if at some point it started to click with the band of what he had just done to Fletcher, because Fletcher didn't have the music. So Fletcher had actually fucked over the whole band too and made them look bad. So I was thinking at this point, now we're seeing maybe in the future, this could be where Andrew's path lies. He's going to be in charge in the future.
That's a lot of thinking. The drum solo, it all kind of blends together for me. And what I like is as he's starting, Fletcher's glaring at Andrew, and Andrew mouths, fuck you. I thought that was brilliant.
And Fletcher reluctantly goes with it. And so as things are ramping up, Fletcher comes over and he says to Neiman, I'm going to gouge your motherfucking eyes out.
Yep. But to no avail, because Andrew doesn't care. He's going to keep playing.
But you notice too, and one of the things I liked about the camera shots at this point is, Andrew keeps playing, and even when the music stops, he goes into his solo, and they're just showing like from the nose up, maybe a little bit lower on Fletcher, and you can see the sides of his mouth starting to curl up, that he's now seeing this, what he's been searching for, what he's been looking for, this, this legend in the making. He's now finally seeing it in Andrew.
Yeah. And as Andrew keeps going and going and going, Fletcher kind of walks up to him and he's like, all right, bring it down. He starts to control it a little bit, or what he thinks he is controlling. And they're getting ready for the big finale, because we just had a 12-minute drum solo. And Fletcher is controlling the tempo. brings it all the way down just to a little pitter patter, and then he brings it up, and they're getting ready for this big finale. And this is it, right? This is the finale of the movie, which really irritated the fuck out of me, because the end of the movie is Fletcher smiling because he got what he wants.
Andrew has now made his choice. This is where he is going, and this is who he is going to be. In essence, it's the old story of he just sold his soul. He signed the contract, and he has sold his soul to the devil.
I think that the movie is trying to show those things, that, what is the price for greatness? And when is too much too much? Because, in life, people have decisions to make. Do I want to take the easy path, or do I want to take, the challenging path? And along the way, that there's going to be sacrifices, and those sacrifices that people make to achieve greatness, you got to wonder, is it really worth it? Because in life, you make choices, and sometimes these choices are going to have, life-altering effects that you got to live with afterwards. And that is something that I think this movie shows.
Yeah. And that was Whiplash.
Welcome to a new segment we like to call
Face the wheel.
The premise is simple. I will spin the wheel, and whatever category comes up, John and Don will apply it to the movie that we are reviewing. Once they have presented their idea to me, I will decide this week's winner of the wheel. So here are the categories: mashup, plot, rename, genre, reboot, alternate ending. I liked it better when it was called spin again. Pick any. Add any character from any movie. Here we go. Genre.
Well, for me, this would just be an easy one. We're going to turn it straight into a musical.
I knew it.
And Andrew is going to sing about his feelings and his struggles. And Fletcher is going to be all about hard rock and rap and fuck you, little boy.
Interesting. I was kind of picturing Fletcher singing all of his insults.
That's what I was.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's kind of funny.
thinking.
Yeah.
It's going to be like trash metal of just
Sure.
destroying him.
Yeah, I like that. Whiplash as a musical. That's funny. I'm going to turn this one into a horror film, and Fletcher is kind of like a Patrick Bateman. And so every time someone doesn't have his tempo, they might disappear. And they might be stored in his basement somewhere until Andrew figures it out. And then he has to solve the crimes and make it to the competition on time to win.
I would love to see it if every time you're off tempo, you lose a piece.
Oh, like a finger or something?
Yeah, like a toe or a finger. And so eventually you see him with just the drum strapped to his stubs.
Oh my God, that would be funny.
I
know, such quality work.
Well, you spent all of what, 10 seconds with it? Come on.
Yeah. Well,
So
I feel like we're selling it to the guy who's going to give us the money.
yeah, more or less, it's a glorified elevator pitch. Mm-hmm. All right, so John has a musical, and Don, what was your genre? Horror. That's right.
It was originally supposed to be a psychological thriller.
thanks. You said that already.
I know.
Go
I
on.
said it again.
I think that John was strong, and Don, you were not as strong until John helped out and gave it a little bit more flavor. And with that,
What, was I not at his tempo?
and so with that, I think this week, listeners, the point is going to go to Don.
Oh, with the assist from John?
So basically, fuck you. Fuck you very much.
All right. You know what? I will fucking take it.
And that
Yeah, you will.
and that concludes this week's
Face the wheel.
All right. What do you guys think? You guys ready to rate this flick?
I'm ready to rate this flick. John, are you ready to rate this flick?
Not Not quite my tempo.
Easy. That was an easy one. Professor, how do we do our ratings?
We do our ratings on a scale of 1 to $5. $5 is a movie that we think is cinematic gold. A $1 movie is a movie where you watch it and you get done watching it and you're thinking, oh, for shit's sake. What the hell? Why would you make me watch this? I want 1 hour and 46 minutes of my life back.
Or in other words, we just don't give a fuck. All right, Professor, you pulled it. You're going.
Whiplash is a fantastic movie. I loved this movie, and it is a rich watch. J.K. Simmons knocks it out of the park. He is an incredible embodiment of Fletcher. Fletcher is such an interesting watch, and his tendencies of, just tearing people down is akin to, I think, if you're turning out for the U.S. Navy SEALs or something like that you would tear somebody down like this. But I don't think that it should be done on college students that are pursuing a music career. This is, he is absolute overkill because he's such a narcissistic sociopath that, he's driven by this warped sense of purpose, as he sits in this position of power. And he is just incredibly sadistic and cruel for the hope of having jazz continue to thrive by him making the assist of having the next Charlie Parker or, any musician that is going to transcend the jazz world, if you will. His methods, I do not agree with at all, but I certainly do understand how and why he chooses to do what he does. The problem the fundamental flaw of him is that he thinks that he's unapologetic for it. He thinks it's justified and okay. Andrew Neiman is a very driven student, and I thought that Miles Teller did a nice job with this guy, and I loved watching him play the drums and the passion and the conviction that the character has. I am so, I don't want to say enamored, but I am so proud of his drive and his force, even though he does it to his own detriment. I am curious to see where he ends up as an adult. I love the way that the movie ended. It's a nebulous ending. We have no idea if Neiman and Fletcher have any more interaction with each other or not. And I think that having that being ambiguous like that makes it good because it will have people talking about it after the movie is over with. Oh, what do you think? What do you think? And that's what you want to have in a good movie. You have things that linger with you and you turn it over in your head and you think about it and you talk about it with other people. And with that, I think that Whiplash does that very well. The music is great to listen to. It is such good camera work that we get in subtle little moments of the movie. And I enjoyed watching it as much as I did the first time that I saw it. This movie is a solid 4.5 fucks.
4.5 fucks from the Professor. All right, I'll go.
You go next.
Thanks, buddy. Whiplash was a decent film. It was put together very well. The camera shots were good. The score was good. I like jazz music, and I like the way it was. But for me, it was a bit long. The drum stuff, I mean, yeah, it was cool to watch, and Miles Teller did a great job. But at the end of the day, I think I found myself laughing at all the insults. So I don't know what that says about me. But at some point, as an audience member, it was just too much. And I get what he was doing. I get what he was trying to do. And I don't know, I can think of other ways to occupy my time than watch something like this. J.K. Simmons was phenomenal. And the fact that he made me dislike him as much as I do, that's acting. So that alone, J.K. Simmons alone gets 2.5 from me. But as an entire film, I'm not in a quick hurry to watch this again. I didn't really get anything out of it except that I guess if you're abusive enough, you can knock someone down and build them back up. And, you know, maybe that's what's wrong with the world today. Who knows? So for me, I'm giving Whiplash 2.75 fucks.
Wow, 2.75. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I'm just not that impressed.
I'm going to go ahead and start off with what I saw as the positives of Whiplash. First of all, the intense performances. They were amazing. They were powerful, and they really hit you, and they made you feel something. The compelling storyline, it was there. It kept you engaged. The exceptional direction. I thought Damien did a fantastic job with the way he set up the shots, with the way that, like I said earlier, Andrew was in every shot, the different eye lines, things like that. It was really well set up. The authentic musical sequences, the fact that, not only did, certain characters play their music, but it felt like the bands were playing their music. It didn't feel like they were just phoning it in. It felt authentic. The cinematography with stunning visuals and dynamic camera group, kind of like what I was saying about the direction, it really made the movie. For me, it was something that I felt like I had not really seen before in a lot of the movies we reviewed. Now let's go to some of the negatives that I saw of this movie. First of all, the exaggerated portrayals. Here we have Andrew, who's the big pushover, versus Fletcher, who's the uber mean teacher from hell. They felt sometimes a little bit over-exaggerated. The one-dimensional characters in this movie, maybe it's because they just didn't have enough time, but all they were was their music. All they were was the competitions or the drumming and all that. There wasn't much else to these characters, but maybe that's the way the movie needed to be, but that may rub people the wrong way. The questionable depiction of glorification of abuse. There was a lot of justification in this movie of, yes, it's abusive, but it's meant to draw out a better drummer or a better musician or a better artist or whatever. So in ways, even though we all saw Fletcher as the bad guy, as the asshole, all that, they were making a lot of justifications why abuse isn't such a bad thing if it brings out, a better point in people. There was a bit of predictability in this movie. It was a basic plot of obsession leading to, breaking down a character only to rebuild that character. There was an overemphasis on drumming. If you aren't a fan of drumming, you may not be a fan of this type of movie. If you are a fan of drumming, you probably will love this movie. So it was a little bit emphasis, maybe too much on drumming itself, being that it was supposed to be about a jazz band. Cazille's direction is masterful with tight pacing, dynamic visuals that keep the audience on the edge, and intense drumming sequences that are particularly striking. And one of the things I really loved was the heightened sense of film urgency. This visual style combined with a compelling narrative immersed viewers in Andrew's relentless quest for perfection. You can't say enough about J.K. Simmons' performance in this. He was a powerhouse. He deserved the award he received. However, Whiplash has its flaws. The exaggerated portrayal of the teacher-student relationship and Fletcher's abusive methods sometimes come across as unrealistic and a bit problematic. It's crazy that the school waited that long to deal with a guy that they knew was physically striking students or verbally attacking them, that they would continue to allow it going on up until a point where someone finally kills themselves. But the best thing about this movie is that it makes you feel uncomfortable, it makes you irritated, and it makes you possibly angry. The fact that this movie makes you feel is a testament to its writing, acting, and directing. So while not my typically type of movie, and I often found it slow in many parts, I cannot deny it was very well crafted. So after hearing all that, Don, what is your prediction that my rating is going to be?
$3.
Is that your final answer?
$3.
Okay. It's for those reasons I'm giving Whiplash 3 solid fucks.
That's a bingo. Back on track. Got it wrong last week. Well, I should have got it right, but I got it wrong last week, but I got it right this week. With 4.5 fucks from the professor, 3 fucks from the comic book guy, and 2.75 fucks from myself, that gives Whiplash an average of 3.4 fucks, which now puts it in the 19th spot, tied with Tango and Cash, Tremors, Ocean's 12, Barbarian, Summer School, and It Chapters 1 and 2. It is slightly better than Airplane, Scarface, and The Greatest Showman. And it is slightly worse than Big Trouble in Little China, Heat, Peter Butter Falcon, Little Miss Sunshine, Free Guy, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and Devotion. So there you have it, boys.
So there you go.
All right, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Three Guys in a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we're going to be reviewing next, please check out the website. And speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
I guess I should probably do my job and tell you guys where you can find us. You can always find us at our website, threeguysinaflick.com, where we go ahead and post all of our show notes, all of our podcasts, and anything else we feel like putting there. You can also find a web form there that you can submit a movie you would like us to review next. You can find us at all of social media and anywhere that hosts podcasts. And while you're listening to our podcast, go ahead and give us a review. Go ahead and give us a comment. We would love to hear from you and incorporate you more into our show.
I just want to thank Allison again for throwing Whiplash into the Bronco helmet. We had fun watching it and reviewing it. I hope you had fun listening to it. And if you disagree with anything that we've said, primarily myself, let us know in the comments and let us know what you thought. I also want to thank anyone else who listens and who has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For Three Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
And I'm Ken. Thanks for listening.
Three guys with some mics, yeah, dart into the flicks. We're here for the real talk, no time for the tricks. Don as the captain, steering us right. Kid drops knowledge, shedding light. John with the comics, bringing the hype. From the good, the bad, to the absurd, we break it down, make sure you heard. Passion for the screen, we ride or die about movies. You know, we always give a fuck, no lie.
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
That's why you never say it to us.
Well, you have to do a good job in order for there to be a good job. Right. And then best picture was Birdman, I believe.
That's what I just said.
Oh, did you?
But yeah, I lost the bird, man.
I thought he was talking about something else. And question number 5. Stand by, please.
Top Gun Maverick.
And that is trivia. No, I'm just kidding. I wish I could remember something that Schaefer said now to berate this guy over here.
Fletcher.
What did I say?
Schaefer.
That was the name of the school.
Oh, what's the difference? All right. What do you got?
Well, what does the professor have?
Why do I go first?
Yeah, why do you make the professor go first?
Because he sets the mark.
You are not at my tempo.
Whip my gash.
Whip my gash. Okay.
Whip snatch.
Whip snatch.
Strip lash.
Strip lash.
And drip snatch.
Drip snatch. Listeners, if you could see the appalled look on the professor's face right now.
Well, let me ask you this question. Is it better to say drip snatch or drippy snatch?
The first one.
Okay, that's what I thought. It fit better.
All right, what do you got there, guy?
I have one that John already said. Whip my gash.
Whip my gash. I was going to, mine is whip my snatch. So, and I only had the one. So, not bad. Not bad, boys.
We're all kind of on the same page.
Kind of. Yeah, there's a lot of whipping.
So we're at your tempo.
No, you're not at my fucking tempo.
Were we dragging?
Were we ahead or were we dragging?
Or were we rushing?
Why the fuck are you asking me? You don't know the difference between whether you're dragging or rushing? Answer me.
Yes, I do.
And what were you?
I was rushing.
Get the fuck out of here until you can figure it out. What about you? Were you dragging or rushing?
I'm always dragging you down.
Yes, you fucking are. You're fucking killing me, Smalls. All right. May all of your days and nights be filled with happiness. All right. Fuck up. Good night.
Three guys in a flight, keep the passion alive.